You're listening to a Dare Media Group and Mastiff Media radio station. From Dare Media Group, Radio X Gold, Radio X Country, 6RXM, Radio X Magic, and Dare Talk Radio. And from Mastiff Media, Yergs Radio, Rainbow Radio, Right Talk Radio, Forward Radio, Mastiff Sports, and Shady News Radio. For more information, visit daremediagroup.com.au or mastiff.medias.
You're tuned to the Sportcat Show.
The boss jock has entered the building. You are listening to the Sportcat Show.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. You have the one, the only Sportcat. I am live on the YouTubes. It is time for the Sportcat Daily Gazette. We are live also in Australia. Hello to our Australian listeners on Radio X and Dare Talk Media. And hello to our worldwide listeners on Yergs Radio. I encourage everybody to come over to the chat on YouTube. You can search it out by going for the Sportcat shows and finding the Paranormal Guys with a Z and join the chat. We got a great chat. It's already lively. Hello, Wendell. We got Denise in there. Hello, Denise. We got Chris in there. Hello, Chris. Let's see. Anybody else missing in there? Hello, KG. Welcome, welcome. I'm glad everybody's here. Oh, and we got a surprise. Miss Brenda is actually showing up. I did have to warn her, though. So hope everybody's having a great day. I am just not with it. Today is my Monday. So Ginger just wanted to get me up early, and so sleep is for the week, I guess. But all right, let's see what all we got here today. Well, it's currently 1:04 on the East Coast. Good morning to LA at 10:05, Denver 11:05, Denver, Chicago 12:05, Anchorage 9:05, and we welcome our listeners in Australia overnight. Sydney, it is 3:05 a.m. In Perth, it is 1:05 a.m. And that's tomorrow, not today. So we're time traveling. You're listening to me from the distant reaches of space. All right. Well, let's jump in here because I got some stories that, well, seems like these other shows just don't like to talk about. You know, maybe it's the truth. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. So we go back in history. That's what we always do because we want to learn from history so we don't repeat it. And we have in 14 CE, the Emperor Augustus dies. After 41-year reign, the first Roman emperor dies at the age of 75, also known as Octavian. He is cemented in history as one of the world's most memorable leaders. Under his rule, the Roman Empire began a period known as the Pax Roma, an era of relative peace. He most likely died from natural causes, though there are unfounded rumors that his wife poisoned him. It's always the woman, isn't it? His famous last public words to the Roman populace were, "Behold, I found Rome of clay and leave her to you of marble." That's a great quote. 1692, George Burroughs is hanged during the Salem witch trials. He's one of the 4 other victims of the Salem witch trials and one of the town's many rounds of executions. He was a minister. He'd been arrested in May after members of his congregation in Salem, who had sued him for previous debts, accused him of witchcraft. He shocked the crowd that had gathered to watch the execution when he recited the Lord's Prayer, something that witches weren't supposed to be able to do. In 1893, the French Academy of Science debuts. 2 years after Louis Daguerre created the Daguerre-type process, the French government awards him a lifetime pension and releases the details of the process to the world for free. Well, all right. 1871, Orville Wright is born. American aviation pioneer and brother of Wilbur. He was born in Dayton, Ohio. Despite some competing claims, the Wright brothers are credited with inventing flying the world's first motor-operated airplane. Orville, the younger of the 2 brothers, became president of the family business, the Wright Company, Upon Wilbur's early death later in his life, Orville Wright expressed sadness that planes played such a huge role in bringing death and destruction during the World Wars. That's a true point. 1936, the Great Purge begins in the Soviet Union as an effort to rid the Soviet Union of Joseph Stalin's political rivals' influence. The purge saw the execution of old Communist Party leadership and government officials before expanding to certain ethnic minority, peasants, intellectuals, and ordinary citizens who were in the wrong place at the wrong time. This period lasted for about 2 years and is estimated a population of 700,000 to 1.2 died. 1980, Otto Frank dies, the author of Anne Frank, who later published her diary, dies in Bersfeld, Switzerland at the age of 91. 1997, Don Lewis, not Don Rickles, Don Lewis, millionaire husband of big cat enthusiast Carol Baskins, is reported missing from his Tampa home and wildlife sanctuary. In a popular investigation detailed in a popular Netflix documentary series, Tiger King, police searched for him without finding any solid evidence related to his disappearance. Some believe Baskin killed him and fed him to the tigers. Though she denies such accusations, Lewis was declared legally dead in 2002. 2015, Jared Fogle is arrested on child pornography charges. The U.S. Attorney General's office announces that Jared Fogle, I remember him, the Subway guy, known as Jared from Subway, has been arrested for possession of child pornography and traveling across state lines to engage in commercial sex with minors. When executive directors of his nonprofit, Fogle's nonprofit, Russell Taylor, was arrested in 2015, they discovered that he had been sending child porn to Fogle directly and arrested him. Yeah, that's crazy. Let's see. Let me catch up in the chat here. The Subway guy was 10 years ago. It seems like yesterday. Yeah, I'd almost forgotten that story. And Brenda says, yep, that's what I said. The cats had him for dinner. Well, if they were in Florida, you do realize the most popular way of, should I even say this? Never mind. I'm not even going to say it over the air. If you want to know, just search out crab traps. 43, BC Octavian compels the Roman Senate to elect him consul. Yes, we talked about that. 1942, World War II, over 4,000 Canadian and British soldiers are killed, wounded, or captured during a raid on Dieppe, France. 1988, Iran and Iraq began a ceasefire in their 8-year-old war at 11 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And let's see. 1991, conservative members of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union attempt to depose Mikhail Gorbachev in a coup defeat. In 2010, Operation Iraqi Freedom winds down as the last of the United States Brigade teams cross the border into Kuwait. 1950, ABC begins broadcasting Saturday morning kid shows, Animal Clinic, and Acrobat Ranch. Do they still have Saturday morning kid shows? 2008, Interscope Records releases The Fame, the debut album by Lady Gaga. Well, all right. There we go. I've met Lady Gaga. She's a pleasant lady, but I do not like her politics. All right, so today is, well, it's a day. They have a national holiday, not a holiday, but a national day for everybody. It's National Patient Advocacy Day. It's National Potato Day, or as we say here in the South, tater. World Humanitarian Day, Afghan Independence Day, Crown Prince de Martin's Day. I'm not sure what that is. International Bow Tie Day. Wendell, there you go. Wear a bow tie today. International Orangutan Day. National Aviation Day. I'm assuming that's because of the Wright brothers. National Photography Day. National Soft Ice Cream Day. I haven't had ice cream in like a year. Revolution Commemoration Day. And Saviors of the Apple Feast Day. It's World Photo Day. So if you have a photo, send it to me. Maybe I'll share it. as long as it's able to be shown. Let me qualify that for some of my listeners. Let's see who has birthdays today. So we will go back in time to Samuel Prescott, physician and patriot who rode with Paul Revere and William Dawes and warned mass that Minutemen, the regulars, are coming. Seth Thomas, one of the first manufacturers to mass-produce clocks, 1785 to 1859. Charles Hires, pharmacist and inventor and manufacturer of Hires root beer. Most sodas come from pharmacists. So Orville Wright, we talked about him, 1871 to 1948. Colleen Moore, silent film actress who popularized the bobbed haircut. That's what Brenda still wears. Philo Farnsworth, inventor who was granted the first patent for TV. Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek. Frank McCourt, the author of the novel Angela's Ashes. Johnny Nash, the singer of the 1972 hit I Can See Clearly Now. Jill St. John, model and actress widely known as the first Bond girl. 1944 and still living, Jack Canfield, co-author of the Chicken Soup for the Soul book. Never read it. Dawn Steele, the first woman to head Hollywood studios. Bill Clinton, happy birthday to the former 42nd president. John Stamos, the actor who played Jesse on Full House. Kyle Sedgwick, multiple award-winning actress. Kyra Sedgwick, who is also married to actor Kevin Bacon. I have a memorable story about Kevin Bacon. So let's see. In 1692, one woman and three men and clergymen are executed at the Salem witchcraft trials. 1782, the British commander Charles Cornwallis surrenders after the last major battle of the Revolutionary War. 1848, the New York Herald announces the California gold rush to the East Coast. 1934, the first soapbox derby is held. Wendell, were you in that? 2004, Google appears in NASDAQ. Wow, 20 years or 20 years. 20, yeah. Is that right? No, 21 years. Goodness. Learned my math. And let's see, we talked about all those things. Let me catch up in the chat here. And Wendell says he doesn't even have a tie. Wendell, how do you not have a tie? That's I don't know. Is that, I don't know. It's uncivilized, Wendell. And let's see. I don't know. Apparently I've offended Brenda because she wants to look like me. I don't know. So I don't have a hairy ass, but thank you, Brenda. Thank you. Let's see. So, all right. So let's get into some news here. Yesterday, Wendell says, yes, I was teaching magic. I don't even know what the hell he's talking about. So yesterday, after we went off the air, there was a cargo ship explosion in the Baltimore harbor, and new images are circulating on X of the damaged cargo ship, the Sapphire, after the explosion ripped through its forward hold near the collapsed Francis Scott Key Bridge on Monday evening. The vessel was sailing through Baltimore's inner harbor shipping lane at the time of the incident, shortly after departing the CSX coal yard dock with a full load. Shipping export Sal Marcalagino wrote on X that the vessel remains anchored just north of the Chesapeake Bay Bridge. He said the image shows the number one hatch blown wide open, suggesting the buildup of methane mixed with coal. And you can see pictures of it over on X. The Baltimore Fire Department said around 6:30, they were dispatched to a report of an explosion aboard a commercial vessel in the Patapsco River near the former Key Bridge. Firefighters responded by both land and air, including the department's fireboats. Upon arrival, they located the Sapphire, a 751-foot bulk carrier showing signs damage consistent with fire and explosion. The vessel remained afloat and was being assisted by tugboats. The ship's crew confirmed that all 23 people on board were accounted for and uninjured. The unified incident involving the ship's owner, the Baltimore City Fire Department, the Port of Baltimore, and the United States Coast Guard. Fireboats remain on scene as the Coast Guard and other agencies begin to investigate. The vessel will be moved to a designated area. You can see there the explosion that ripped open the forward hull. And there was a huge response by the Coast Guard. Of course, they came from all over to that. And you can see the explosion here. Yeah, she lit off pretty good there. So, according to shipping expert, the cargo ship suffered an explosion to its forward hull and was fully loaded at the time. And it had just departed from the port, and it may have been an explosion of the coal in the forward hull. And so they are going to keep an eye on it because coal can create methane. It is subject to self-heating and liquefaction, and bulkers can explode. I believe they have a perimeter set up around it, and they're going to monitor it and just cool the sides of the ship, and then they will tug it. It won't go by its own power to a port. All right, let's see here. And this is a story you're not going to get anywhere else, and this one is going to blow your mind. Let's see here. Let me catch up. Denise, yes, she's still there, I hope. Sal Marcialaja is my guy to go to for all my shipping news. Well, you know, he's a good guy. Glenn, I will be here, but the dogs are getting their hair did, so I have to go pick them up when they say they are ready. Well, all right, get your dog's hair did. Are you washing your cat too? And Wendell says Denise just drifts. All right, so here's the story you're not going to get from other media outlets. And I won't say I'm breaking it, but because obviously I'm not breaking it if I'm reading someone else's story. But is Harjinder Singh, the Florida Turnpike truck driver, the same man who collapsed the 88-year-old Arkansas bridge in 2019? Harjinder Singh, the truck driver involved in the fatal crash on the Florida Turnpike, is reportedly the same individual who collapsed the 88-year-old bridge in Arkansas in 2019 by driving an overweight truck over it. His past and present actions have raised serious concerns about road safety and driver accountability. Harjinder Singh is a semi-truck driver involved in the recent fatal crash that claimed 3 lives during a reckless U-turn on the Florida Turnpike. He has been arrested. He was arrested in California, and they had to actually go find him. Amid this, a video of the deadly incident shows the moment the vehicle suddenly took a turn that caused the incoming car to crash into it. But did you know that he's the same truck driver, the same person who caused the collapse of a historic 88-year-old bridge in Arkansas in 2019? According to reports, the person behind the reckless driving has been identified as Harjinder Singh, who has been staying in the USA as an illegal immigrant since 2018. The individual who shared the car crash video on his social media mentioned that the accused is an illegal immigrant. These are the alleged truck drivers who killed the 3 people while making U-turns at an official use only turn on the Florida Turnpike. The Florida Highway Patrol is describing the wreck as a homicide investigation. The video begins with a view from inside the semi-truck's driver's cab, suddenly makes a U-turn, causing the car crash behind it to crash into the large vehicle. He seems unaffected by the tragic crash. A statement from the official White House Rapid Response Team, I didn't know we had that. Official White House Rapid Response Team acknowledged the incident, noting that the driver has been taken into custody for vehicular homicide and will ultimately face deportation. No, he doesn't need to be deported. He needs to be hung. Well, past cases, according to CDL Life, the historic bridge collapsed in 2019 in Yell County, a town in Ola, Arkansas. Reportedly, he's the same driver involved that was in the recent U-turn crash. He was hauling a load of processed chicken to Danville when his GPS device led him to Dale Bend Bridge. And if you go to X, you can look and see the signs are clearly printed as to the weight limits of the wooden bridge. and by him apparently having a language barrier, did not heed the warning signs and drove onto the wooden bridge, and he was about 64 times overloaded. As not overloaded for CDL life, but overloaded to drive over the bridge. There were signs posted at the entrance warning the driver the 6-ton weight limit, but he attempted to cross the bridge anyhow in a 38-ton truck. The weight of the semi-truck collapsed the bridge, an old structure, and left the truck partially submerged in the river. The state of Arkansas has filed a suit against a California trucking company and its driver after a major bridge collapse. So there you go. And if we recall yesterday, the illegal immigrant was said to reside in California, obtained his driver's license and CDL as an illegal immigrant in California. There you go. So, yes, he did. He killed 3 people in that car crash. And I think it was a mother, father, and grandson. Let's see. It's not going to happen. He can't read or talk at the same time and don't remember what he said. And Brenda says they went under the they went under the trailer and the driver lost her head. I don't know about that, but yes, Chris. He says he has comments. He says, but because he loves this channel. Huh? Chris, are you mad at my story? I don't know. If you are, I'm sorry, but it's the news. Another story that, mainstream media is just not reporting. A Lafayette woman was arrested for threats against President Trump. Nathaniel, I don't know. Rose Jones, a 50-year-old from Lafayette, was arrested on Saturday in D.C. for allegedly making threats against President Trump on social media, according to the U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro. She faces charges of threatening harm to the president, transmitting threats across state lines. The U.S. Secret Service, in coordination with the U.S. Attorney's Office for D.C., acted swiftly to address the threats. Special Agent in Charge Matt McCool, what a name. I'm Matt McCool, Secret Service. From August 2nd to August 9th, the U.S. Secret Service observed threatening posts from the Instagram account nath.jones, where she allegedly called for the president's removal and labeled him a terrorist. Similar threats were posted on Facebook between August 6th and August 15th. On August 15th, she admitted to voluntarily hold on, I'm gonna go back so we got this straight. On August 15th, she admitted during a voluntary interview with the Secret Service that she considered President Trump a, quote, terrorist and expressed her intent to harm him, attributing her anger to the administration's handling of the C virus pandemic, despite initially denying any present intent to harm him. During a second interview on the 16th, she was arrested after confirming ownership of the Facebook account, Nath Jones, and acknowledging her threatening statements. The U.S. Secret Service is leading the investigation with the Assistant U.S. Attorney prosecuting the case. Gotcha. Okay. Brenda says, I sent you that one from that guy now. Okay. I'm not sure what she's talking about because I didn't hear any messages go off, but okay. The one thing they're definitely not saying in this story is she left her home and they were either tailing her or when she was outside the house there at 1600 Penn Avenue, she was somehow facially identified. So they're not saying exactly how they knew she was actually in Washington, D.C. So, and here's a story that gets buried nicely in the headlines because, we just don't like to talk about it. This comes to us out of D.C. on NBC of all stations, WRC in Washington. D.C. police commander suspended accused of changing crime stats. A D.C. police commander is under investigation for allegedly making changes to crime statistics. The Metropolitan Police Department confirmed Michael Pullman was placed on paid administrative leave in mid-May. Wow, mid-May, and we're just now hearing about it. Wow. That happened just a week after he filed an EEOC complaint against the assistant chief and crime data. Let me repeat that. The police use the Department of deliberately falsifying crime data, according to 3 law enforcement sources familiar with the complaint. The union claims supervisors in the department manipulate crime data to make it appear violent crime has fallen compared to the last year. Let me read that again so that we're all clear. The Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police Department union claims police supervisors manipulate crime data to make it appear violent crime has fallen considerably in the last year. Police union. Aren't most unions Democrat? The former commander of the 3rd District that patrols Adams Morgan and Columbia Heights was placed on leave with pay and told he was under investigation for, quote, questionable changes to crime data. 5 law enforcement sources familiar with the investigation told News 4. That came about a week after he filed a complaint against the executive assistant chief of police, Andre Wright, according to 3 law enforcement sources familiar with the complaint. News 4 reached out to Pullman for comment, but he denied the allegation against him and referred us to the PIO, Public Information Officers. Union officials said there is a larger trend of manipulating crime statistics. Let me read that again there. Union officials said there is a larger trend of manipulating crime statistics. When our members respond to the scene of a felony offense where there is a victim reporting that a felony occurred, inevitably there will be a lieutenant or captain that will show up on scene and direct those members to take a report for a, quote, lesser offense. Let me read this again to you because this comes to you from the Fraternal Order of Police. When our members, talking of police officers, when our members respond to the scene of a felony offense where there is a victim reporting that a felony occurred, inevitably there will be a lieutenant or captain that will show up on that scene and direct those members to take a report for a lesser offense. That's a quote from the Fraternal Order of Police Chairman Greg Pemberton. So instead of taking a report for a shooting or stabbing or a carjacking, they will order that officer to take a report for a theft or an injured person to the hospital or a felony assault, which is not the same type of classification. The police department's command staff is focusing on 2 categories in order to get the numbers to fall, Pemberton said: armed with dangerous weapons and injured persons to the hospital. Well, they're supposed to be a gun-free zone, so why would they have dangerous weapons? When management officials are directing officers to take reports for felony assaults, or if they're going back into police databases and changing offenses to felony assault is not a category of crime that is listed on the department's daily crime stats, Pemberton said. It's also not something that a requirement of the FBI Uniform Crime Reporting Program. So by changing the criminal offenses from, for example, ADW bat or ADW gun to felony assault, that would avoid both the MPD and the FBI from reporting that as part of their felony offense. And I'm assuming assault with a deadly weapon or assault with a deadly weapon gun. So the union has been gathering evidence for some time now by looking at reports and talking with officers, all over the city. What we've heard through our members and through members of management that they were willing to talk with the union is that this is a directive from the command staff. Command staff, Isn't that what the new DEA that was supposed to be put in charge of Metropolitan Police? He would have been, he would have been the head of the command staff. So it says there's a directive from the command staff is that they want to make sure that these classifications of these reports are adjusted over time to make sure overall crime stats stay down. He said, and this is, and I'm quoting from him, deliberately done. As of last Monday, when News 4 spoke with Pemberton, DC crime stats showed violent crime was down 28%. Thursday, the department website said violent crime is down 25% when compared to the same time last year. Overall, crime is down by 8%. And Pemberton, remember, he's in charge of the police unit. Wendell, you're an ass. That's preposterous. There absolutely no way crime could be down 28% last year. They suggested it went down by 30%. In April, Pullman's wife, Captain Rachel Pullman, was transferred by Chief Pamela Smith from the Youth Division to midnights in the 7th District. Subsequently, according to 3 sources familiar with the incident, the timing of everything, Wright ordered Commander Pullman to pack up his wife's belongings from the Youth Division and move them on his and his wife's new assignment to the 7th District. So he ordered his officers to do non-police work, probably at the taxpayers' expenses, which would be ours because it's a federal department or it's in a federal city. He viewed the order as retaliatory and misuse of authority, according to people familiar with the complaint. About a week later, Commander Pullman's police powers were revoked, 5 law enforcement sources told Channel 4. Chief Smith told NBC4 she cannot comment on an ongoing investigation. Boy, we hear that a lot from politicians. As for claims made by the union, she released this statement. The Metropolitan Police Department is committing to uphold the trust and confidence of the public. Any irregularity in crime data brought to my attention will be addressed immediately. I do not condone any official reclassifying criminal offenses outside the guidelines set in MPD policy. Any allegation of this behavior will be dealt with through our internal processes, which will help ensure these members are held accountable. I have the utmost confidence in the command staff leadership currently in place across the MPD. But she declined to speak to Channel 4. Let's see. Yes, Wendell, I use a knife. I don't use a spoon because most of mine is protein. I have to cut it. So there you go. All right, we're going to continue on. News Talk 98.7. According to White House, half of the D.C. crackdown arrests is in high crime wards. Nearly half of the non-immigration related arrests since President Trump announced his plan to take control of MPD and deploy National Guard have occurred in 2 of the city's highest crime wards. I've heard that may not be 100% accurate. According to the White House figures, federal authorities have made 212 arrests, excluding immigration cases, since August 8th, with 101 arrests and about 48% taking place in Wards 7 and 8, majority Black-owned neighborhoods long plagued by violent crimes. Oh, Lord, we have to just add that in there, don't we? Of the arrests, 24 related to gun charges. That's impossible. It's a gun-free zone. How would these people have weapons? 11 were arrested in Ward 8 with guns. Wow, this is a gun-free zone. Wow. 31 narcotics cases, 7 DUIs, 2 assaults, and immigration-related issues, which totaled 164, many involving additional charges such as assault and drug distribution. Wow, that's a gun-free zone. I didn't think they had any. Wow. All right, so we're going to continue on with this story because I think it's time for the D.C. cleanup. This comes from an ex-resident. I moved because it was too damn expensive. I would love to go home, but Jesus, you can't afford to live up there. National Guard mission swells to 2,000 as troops get orders to D.C. More than 2,000 National Guardsmen from D.C. and now 6 states have been activated as part of the federal operation in the capital. Total number of troops activated in support of the surge in federal law enforcement now stands at 2,091. On Monday, the governors of Louisiana, Mississippi, Tennessee, go Vols, announced they would send hundreds of troops to Washington, D.C. The move comes after Ohio, South Carolina. What the hell? He don't know how to Carolyn. This reporter don't know how to type. Carolyn. No, it's South Carolina. It's got to be a Yankee. And West Virginia made similar announcements over the weekend. More than 1,000 troops outside. Hold on, I got tickled myself. More than 1,000 troops outside troops are en route to the joint deployment under the authority of the Joint Task Force. I don't know where they're coming from in South Carolina, but by God, let's welcome them. They join us as of Monday evening, the 896th District of Columbia National Guard soldiers and airmen activated as part of the president's show of force inside the city. Over the weekend, West Virginia was the first to announce it would send service members, pledging 350. South Carolina, it's Carolina there, not Carolyn. Governor Henry McMaster said he would send 200. Ohio Governor Mike DeWine announced 150. On Monday, Mississippi pledged 200. Louisiana announced 135 would deploy. And Tennessee, go Vols, said that 160 would go to, quote, assist with monument security, community safety patrols, and protecting federal facilities, as well as traffic control, per the statement from Tennessee Governor Bill Lee. At the direction of the president and the SecDef, more than 800 D.C. National Guards have been on the ground supporting the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department. And some of my friends in D.C. Fire and D.C. Police have said they really are welcoming the help. Let's see. So they've partnered up in helping with federal law enforcement partners, showing that when our nation capital calls, the Guard and the DoD answer. A spokesperson for the Joint Task Force DC said in a statement Monday evening that to task and purpose, that's the author, in the days ahead, reinforcements from West Virginia will join them, strengthening the mission to secure our monuments, protect federal facilities, support community safety, and drive down crime. Joint Task Force did not comment or confirm other deployments, save for West Virginia, saying the 350 members from the West Virginia National Guard are expected midweek. President Trump escalated claims of crime in the Capitol over the last 2 weeks, suggesting it was rampant. And I say this is from a military journal. It was rampant despite data. Well, it's because you don't dig and do your research like a podcaster does in the Appalachia of Tennessee, showing it had decreased dramatically to a 30-year low. These people are paid journalists. I'm just a blowhard behind a mic and can find this buried in the headlines. Why can't they? Oh, wait. Maybe they don't want the public to know. I'm just saying. All right, so troops are activated under Title 32, where they are under state authority but federally funded. DC's unique status means that the DC National Guard is under federal authority. In the week since the troops were activated, they have predominantly been limited to certain areas of the city, including the DC Armory, the National Mall, and Union Station. And my friend just got some pictures of them in those places. The orders for the DC Guard in other states were part of unit-wide activations, which are from different National Guard missions that can be voluntary. These orders are involuntary. We choose soldiers based on availability, ensured those assigned are not part of our immediate hurricane response force. That's right, because we got that coming to South Carolina. Most important to highlight is the positive morale of our soldiers. They are trained and ready to answer the call. And so you can go, they're going back and going over how this all began, but I don't know that I could trust an article. It doesn't cite the accurate name of a state in the lower 48 and then doesn't do research about data. So there you go. There you go. I'm just going to shut up for at least 24 hours. All right, so we talk about illegal immigrants. Let's talk about this. Now, I'm not saying anything bad because I am pro Thin Blue Line. A Maine police officer arrested by ICE agrees to voluntarily leave the country. Wait, what? Old Orchard Beach, Maine. You probably won't see this on mainstream media. A Maine police officer arrested by immigration authorities had agreed to voluntarily leave the country, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement said on Monday. ICE arrested Old Orchard Beach Police. Did I say that right? Old Orchard Beach Police Department Reserve Officer John Luke Evans of Jamaica on 25 July as part of the agency's effort to, quote, step up immigration enforcement. Officials with the town and the police department have said the federal authorities previously told them Evans was legally authorized to work in the U.S. An ICE representative reached by telephone told the AP on Monday that a judge has granted voluntary departure for Evans and that he could leave as soon as that day, but they did not provide other details about his case. Well, his arrest touched off a dispute between Old Orchard Beach officials and ICE. Police Chief Elsa Chard has said the department was notified by federal officials that he was legally permitted to work in the country and that the town submitted information via the Department of Homeland Security E-Verify program prior to his employment. Assistant Secretary of Homeland Security Tricia McLaughlin then accused the town of reckless reliance on the department's E-Verify program. E-Verify is an online system that allows employers to check if potential employees can work legally. The town is aware of the reports that Evan plans to leave the country voluntarily. They said on Monday, the town reiterates its ongoing commitment to meeting all state and federal local laws regarding employment, Chard said in the statement. We will continue to rely on I-9 employment eligibility verification from the E-Verify database to confirm employment eligibility. ICE detainee lookup website said Monday that Evans was being held at the Donald W. Wyatt Detention Facility in Central Falls, Rhode Island. However, a representative for Wyatt said Evans had been transferred to an ICE facility in Burlington, Mass. ICE officials did not respond to requests for comments on the discrepancy. It was unclear if Evans was represented by an attorney. Any message left for him at the detention facility was left unreturned. ICE officials said that in July, Evans overstayed his visa and unlawfully attempted to purchase a firearm. What? Wow. WMTW-TV reported Monday that Evans' agreement to voluntary departure means he will be allowed to leave the U.S. at his own expense to avoid being deported. So they're truck drivers and police officers, huh? I'm just going to let this sink in. Let's see. Catch up in the comments. Let's see. Only so good people can't defend themselves. Chris says, so it's racist that people are being arrested in these neighborhoods, but they don't mention these minority property owners are being given a safe place to live. Exactly. And Wendell says, like they say, when guns are outlawed, not only criminals are going to have them. Well, Wendell, I argue this. A Maine police officer who was arrested by ICE for being an illegal alien, he clearly has a weapon on. Okay. Guess he could go be a truck driver. California. I'm just saying. I'm going to stir up the hate and discontent. If you want to send me a message, sportcat at speakpipe.com /sportcat, speakpipe.com /sportcat. Leave me a message. You can text me at 404-492-6095, 404-492-6095. It's also in the show notes. And you can also send me an email at sportcat@protonmail.com. Or if you want to just X me, why not X me at Sportcat? I'm sure I'm going to get some love for these stories. And that's okay, because you know what? I am reporting the things that are hidden down in there, and I'm telling the truth that some podcast shows or YouTube shows continuously tell us we're all going to die, yet they schedule a show the next day or later that night or the day after. Okay, another story you're probably not hearing much about. A fifth person has died after Legionnaire's disease outbreak sickens dozens in New York City. A fifth person has died in connection with Legionnaire's disease outbreak in New York City. The outbreak in central Harlem has sickened dozens since it began in late July. The latest death was announced late Monday night. 14 people were hospitalized as of Monday, according to the health department. The bacteria that causes the disease has been discovered in 12 cooling towers in 10 buildings, including a city-run hospital and a sexual health clinic, health officials say. Remediation efforts have since been completed on all of the cooling towers. Legionnaire's disease is a type of pneumonia that is caused by Legionnaire bacteria, which grows in warm water and spreads through the building water system. The city's outbreak has been linked to the cooling towers which use water and a fan to cool buildings. People usually develop symptoms, a cough, a fever, headaches, muscle aches, and shortness of breath between 2 days and 2 weeks after the exposure to the bacteria, according to the CDC. City health officials say people who live and work in the area should contact a healthcare provider if they develop flu-like symptoms. So if you're in New York City and you start to have those symptoms, you should probably seek medical attention pretty quick. All right, another story that's been kind of buried. I saw it trickle out. What is... I'll be your compliment department. Oh, well, Brenda. Well, Brenda, you're welcome to send me messages too. This one started to trickle out a little bit. The DOJ is going to start giving Congress, the guys, the Eastine guy, documents by weeks and according to the House Oversight Committee. The DOJ will begin handing over documents regarding deceased sex offender J. Epp to Congress by the end of the week, the House Oversight Committee James Comer announced on Monday. He said the development took 1 day before the deadline listed in the subpoena he issued to the DOJ. Officials with the DOJ have informed us that they will begin providing records to the Oversight Committee later this week. He said in the statement, there are many records in DOJ's custody, and it will take the department time to produce all the records and ensure the identification of victims and any child sexual abuse materials is redacted, he added. I appreciate the Trump administration's commitment to transparency and efforts to provide the American people with information on this matter. The DOJ has declined to comment, although Bondi did say they would start slowly releasing things out. Comer subpoenaed the DOJ on August 5th, the same day he issued subpoenas for Eastine guy related testimony from former President Bill Clinton and his wife, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, and several ex-law enforcement leaders. Okay. On dates ranging from mid-August to mid-October. The Oversight Committee also issued a subpoena to Jaslyn Maxwell, who is serving a 20-year prison sentence after being found guilty of conspiring with him to abuse little girls, but has yet to finalize details for a deposition after she demanded immunity. All the subpoenas were approved by members of the Oversight Committee before he sent them out. Well, we know who the guy was, and in his cover letters, Comer explained that the Hillbill family appears to have had a close relationship with him, and according to former law enforcement heads. The chairman noted that the various ways the FBI and DOJ were involved in the investigation, litigations, and other matters related to the guy and Maxwell during their tenures. So the first deposition took place yesterday with William Barr. He's the former attorney general, according to a source to the Daily Wire. Barr made clear that Trump never provided any views or instructions related to the criminal case against him or his death, and that he never saw any evidence suggesting that Trump committed a crime. According to a source who added that Barr further stated he believed the Biden DOJ would have released any incriminating evidence against Trump if such evidence existed. That's a pretty accurate statement. All right, so you all get the gist of that article. So we will see. And I don't know what Brenda and Wendell are going on about, so we'll just go here. Trump wastes no time commenting on the Z guy's uniform. Well, the old Vladmeister showed up at the White House yesterday after a meeting with President Trump and President Putin took place. The Vladmeister and several world leaders went to D.C. yesterday on Monday after meeting with President Putin. Shortly after greeting the Ukrainian leader, President Trump wasted no time commenting on the Ukraine's militaristic black suit, which he donned for the occasion. The back and forth began when Trump called on Brian Glenn, a reporter for the MAGA-aligned outlet Real America's Voice, who had previously slammed the Z-Meister for not dressing up. First of all, President Zelensky, you look fabulous in that suit. You look good, Glenn stated. Trump then jumped in saying, I said the same thing. President Trump then reminded Zelensky that Glenn had attacked him in February for wearing military fatigues, to which he replied, I remember. Chuckling, I apologize to you, Glenn added. You were in the same suit, Zelensky added. You did not. His clothing was the subject of much discussion, including on this show for this meeting. It was reported that the White House issued a warning to the Ukraine delegation that it must wear a suit. He is famous for his army-tone sweatshirt, polos, and military-style outfits. He complied with the directive and showed up in meeting on Monday wearing a black shirt and jacket. It was a button-up shirt. Speaking with Politico, one of his designers said the outfit symbolized his position as head of state. This time the president will be in a suit, but the style still remains in a military key, the same symbolism that he is the head of state. He wants everybody to know he's the head in charge. Oh, said the Elvira. Well, Elvira is a Ukrainian businesswoman. At the same time, it is important to emphasize that Z-Man personally decides what he wants to wear. He is now in a state where every detail matters. His appearance, his mood, his emotions. Well, as a world leader, that's kind of the way it's supposed to be for any of them. So, yeah, so there you go. He showed up, and I still cannot confirm that he took off his suit and jacket and stripped down to a t-shirt for a meeting. I still can't confirm that. So, but that was out there yesterday. Let's see. Chris said, could you be at your job and get away with this? Why not with not doing it for years? Then you tell your superiors, I will get you the stuff I've been hiding starting at the end of the week. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And Whittle says, see if he can put two sentences together. Remember what he was talking about. You talk about me? And by the time he checks on the chat, he changed the subject 10 times. Well, Wendell, I'm reading and I'm trying to get this news out there. So maybe I can't put two sentences. You are hateful today, Wendell. Goodness gracious. All right. So we're going to talk about the mysterious interstellar object. Well, apparently it's turned on its headlights. Interesting. Let me go over here because apparently I'm missing stuff in the chat. So let's see. Oh, Lord. All right. So, all right. I'm going to go back to doing my show instead of worrying about somebody else's. All right. So the mysterious interstellar object appears to generate its own light. And I need to apologize to everyone because I've been calling it 31 Atlas, and it's actually 3I Atlas. So apparently I'm illiterate, and Wendell just called me on it. So is something from another world cruising through our solar system. A strange interstellar object known as 3I Atlas has scientists stunned after it appeared to emit its own light, raising fresh speculation that it may not be a comet at all, but a craft. Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb revealed that a photo taken by the Hubble Space Telescope on 21 July shows that 3I Atlas is now glowing in a way which does not match how comets typically reflect sunlight. Instead of a natural even halo of brightness, the object looks concentrated, almost like a vehicle turning on its headlights. He explained that while the glow could be caused by dust heating up and escaping from its surface, the brightness drops off too sharply compared to normal comets, suggesting that something else is also possible. It could be a spacecraft powered by, quote, nuclear energy, while stressing that more evidence is needed before drawing conclusions. So, and the object could have fooled scientists. The 3I Atlas is producing its own light, and it now may be smaller than believed, from around 300 feet to an estimated 12 miles, putting it closer to a size of Oumuamua, the infamous 2017 interstellar visitor that also displayed bizarre behavior. According to the mysterious 3I Atlas, adding to the mystery, 3I Atlas is on an extraordinary rare trajectory set to pass near Venus, Mars, and Jupiter before making its closest approach to Earth on 17 December. The odds of a natural space rock taking a path are less than 0.005%. Astronomers also noticed a lack of a comma, not coma. That says coma, but it should be a comma. Astronomers also, see, I'm not the only one that's illiterate, Wendell. I can at least correct some things. Astronomers also noted that 3I Atlas lacks a comma, the glowing cloud of dust that usually surrounds comets. Some natural explanations remain on the table, but many don't fit. Well, the big test comes on October 3rd when it passes close to Mars, and scientists hope to get new images of it and see if it's just a strange space rock or proof that alien technology is closer than we think. Now, I watched a scientist last night that brought up some really valid points. That first off, this is showing signs of something that was launched because of the way it's traveling. So in other words, if we launch a spacecraft, there's something behind it until it loses its forward trajectory. But even then, Wendell says, yes, but it takes a few minutes to figure it out. Okay, Wendell, I tell you what, you want to come on and do this show? Bring it. I'll let you, brother. I'll let you. You can do the research. You can do the homework. Because I tell you, don't pay shit, Wendell. I'm doing this for you guys. So he brought up several points that were interesting, that it shows a type of trajectory that is similar to when we thrust something into space, like a rocket. And he also brought up another valid point, the Oumuamua 2017 comet that was irregular, which got very little press, if I recall. Could it have been alien technology as well? And that one and possibly this one are similar to what happened when the air balloon went over the United States collecting data? There's some very interesting arguments he brought up, stating that it could be just a ship traveling through, or a vessel traveling through the universe that we don't recognize as a vessel because it's not what we think as humans a vessel should look like. And it's just collecting data on the universe and sending it somewhere else. Kind of like the air, the balloons, hot air balloon, the balloons that traveled all the way across the country, well, halfway around the world before it was shot down by the U.S. off the coast of the South Carolina. So that was an interesting possibility I hadn't thought of. So now this one comes to us from the Lad Bible. And I'm just reading this one. I have no clue. A woman shares messages from aliens as potentially hostile alien threat resurfaces. Woman claims she is an intra-dimensional communicator. Says she has been in contact with the alien ship. Emily Eaton says reports about the interstellar object is a comet are completely untrue and claims she has been in contact with the extraterrestrial beings on board the ship, claiming there is, quote, no hostile threat. It comes after a number of space enthusiasts and conspiracy theorists claim that the unconfirmed object could be aliens posting a threat to life on Earth. On TikTok, her handle is Divine Magic. Emily claims this couldn't be any further from the truth, and any talk of an alien attack is completely unfounded. You might have seen it described as a comet in the news, but even the science industry acknowledges that its flight path is not comet-like. And by the way, it sped up to 165,038 miles a second to it slowed down to 130 something yesterday, traveling 16 miles a second. So a comet wouldn't slow down. So Wendell says he admits I do a better job than he could. Well, thank you, Wendell. Wendell wants to know if the person sharing the message from the aliens was Brenda. I don't know. So I don't know if Brenda's a star child. But anyhow, this lady, you can go read this on the Lad Bible. I'm wasting too much time on this. She says there's no hostile threat. So take it for what you want if she's a TikToker. And we might want to brush up on our skills because scientists are now saying that we should send a 6-word message in Morse code. Yeah, that archaic method of sending communications known as Morse code, that we should send messages to the ship in Morse code that should read, "Hello, welcome to our neighborhood, peace." I would just suggest that anybody start learning a little Morse code right around now. I'm just saying it might be helpful in the future. All right, so let's get on to the most important matter of the day. Get away from the alien silliness and this DC silliness and get up with something real, something you sink your teeth into. I will say I tried to search out news stations, not TV or print, but talk radio stations specifically along the Carolyn banks, and hardly any of them are taking this serious. I was just shocked by that. They're not taking this serious. Well, the latest updates on the projected impact is they're calling for, this came out at 11/19, on the August 19th, Dare County Emergency Communications Director Drew Pearson, it's imperative that any visitors on Hatteras Island who have not already evacuated do so immediately. The update added that surge and flooding could be impacting vulnerable points of the North Carolina Highway 12 on the Hatteras Island with this afternoon's high tide. Once inundation begins, it will persist for several days. And they are now saying that they could actually see a hurricane. This is saying tropical force as of this morning, but it's been updated to hurricane force winds along the coastline. So we're going to cover that a little bit more in a minute, but I think they need to, and they're also calling for large waves. Now, I've seen some groups saying there's going to be 100-foot waves. I really don't think that's the case, but you can take that for what it's worth. So it's growing larger, and that's the problem, is it's growing larger, and it's going to affect the coastline, and it's possibly going to pretty much brush North Carolina. So meteorologist Mark Margarvich said on X Tuesday, Hurricane Aaron is trending significantly west over the last few days. Yes, it's a concern. It's producing high surf, rip currents along the coastline, along the beaches of the Bahamas and the Carolyn. Tropical storm conditions are currently happening. Let's go. And the U.S. East Coast is on alert as it approaches, as they should be. This one came to us from a listener, and I'm not sure I could even say this word. Skibidi is apparently a new word in the English language. 6,000 words were added to the Cambridge Dictionary, according to the AP. Skibidi is gibberish term coined by the creator of an animated YouTube series. It can mean cool or bad or be used with no meaning at all in a joke. So if you're fluent in other terms like Rizzler and Delulu and more, I have no idea. I'm going to have to go read this whole thing. But apparently there's a whole new language, and it's not coming from the aliens. Jesus Christ. It's coming from this younger generation. So we'll talk more about that in the future. Wendell says Brenda was on the other side of the flat earth chatting with the UFO. Oh, thank you for getting off my ass, Wendell. All right. So what we normally do around here, by the way, it's the top of the hour. Good morning to you in Australia. If you're just now tuning in, you're listening to the Sportcat Daily Gazette, where we tell you things the media doesn't necessarily talk about, and we give you a little weather along the way, and sometimes just some stuff to think about. So this is the FEMA Daily Operations Briefing as presented to the POTUS at 8:30 a.m. this morning. It does not have any secret squirrel stuff, so just to let you know. And it says, and I don't understand this, there are no significant incidents that they're monitoring. Heavy rain, flash flooding in the southeastern U.S. and southern Appalachia, excessive heat, southwest, lower Mississippi. Tropical, well, they're watching Aaron. Then there's another disturbance behind that. And yet there's another disturbance behind that. And they're monitoring one in the Western Pacific. So the Atlantic overview, well, we got Aaron sitting there. Then there's another one right behind it that's got a 60% chance of forming. And wait, there's yet another one right behind it that's coming. So yeah, the 8 a.m. satellite shows that it's going northwest at 7 miles an hour. It's currently a Cat 2 as of 8 a.m. I really wish they would add the other graphic to this. So they're showing that by 2 a.m. Wednesday, that's tonight, it will be affecting the Florida-Georgia coastline by 12 hours after that. And then from there, it's going to turn to the east, and it will be affecting the Carolina coast and maybe up into the Delmarva. Now, the winds are going to arrive, well, Florida, you may see some winds, but won't be as significant as the Carolinas. We can see by this that, well, hurricane force winds are going to be affecting the Carolina coast pretty much from Wednesday morning to Thursday morning. So that's also going to include some high tide and high surf and, of course, storm surge from 2 to 4 feet. Going up towards Virginia Beach in the Chesapeake area. I saw they're evacuating the horses off of the island up there in the Chesapeake, Virginia Beach area. I did not know they did that. So, Denise, stay on alert because there's a possibility later this week you could see some impact. Probably just some high winds and rain, but it depends on how westerly it goes. And the tropical cyclone out in the west is just going to pitter out and do nothing. So it's not really going to matter at all. So the national forecast, we're going to talk about Aaron here in a minute, but we pretty much see that from Vermont to Florida, back over to Arizona, up through the Four Corners and back up to the Great Lakes. We're all going to see spotty showers today. And here in East Tennessee along the Appalachian Mountains from Georgia through Southwest Virginia, we can see some heavy rain. And all these lows are trying to push down and bring cool air from Canada. So we'll see how much Aaron affects it and if they can push her to the east. We really want them to push her to the east. Wednesday, rain pretty much for most of the country. Heavy along the Carolina and Virginia Beach, Chesapeake Bay up into the Delmarva. And in Thursday, you could look at some heavy rains closer up to the northeast. So as it continues moving, we have excessive heat pretty much from the Mississippi all the way up to Illinois, bilaterally with extreme warnings on either side of the Mississippi, and to the west, pretty much all of Oklahoma, Mississippi, Louisiana, into the east, half of Tennessee. It's going to get over this far, and half of Alabama. Wendell, it's going to be a hot day. They're saying that we could see temperatures in the south as high as 102 and back over into Phoenix as high as 108. We'll take a look at that. They have the Utah fire about 80% contained, 60% on the Rio Blanco, and 0% in Idaho, and 28% in Wyoming. Still no reporting on the California fires. Do not understand that. I don't know if California is no longer giving the Fed data or what the deal is. For the next 24 hours, no space storms, high solar winds are expected or any radiation. And we always look at the common operating picture. If you blew this up and were able to view it on a big map, you'd see there's 17 joint field offices with 64 major disasters and 7 emergency declarations. They're still working to repopulate 12 different missions, and they're starting to activate their different task forces. So let's see. All right, so let's move on to the next thing real quick. We talk about the president's schedule. He had a busy one yesterday. Let's go back in time and look at it and see what it was. One of the wrong button. Denise says, thanks. I'm close to the water. Oh, well, Denise, send pictures if it gets too bad up there. And Chris wants to know, has the definition of inflation changed now that Biden's gone? Yeah. KG says, I'm watching live cam from Myrtle Beach. The waves don't look too bad. Lots of tourists, none in the water deeper than their knees. There was actually a thing about that said that they were not supposed to go in water deeper than their knees. There was a, whatever you call it, advisory sent out. So President Trump's schedule, we'll go back in time and see. Monday, he was at meetings all day, and he was greeting people and taking pictures. Apparently there's a stakeout location. Okay. So he participated in meetings at the Oval Office, and he had dinner with foreign leaders. And then apparently he was participating in family photos with European leaders in the afternoon, and then more meetings in the afternoon. So I'm sure he also probably had dinner with them. Today, well, they called the press in at 9 a.m., and at 1 o'clock, the press briefing by Carolyn Levitt was in the James Brady press briefing room. And then at 1, the president signed a congressional bill. Don't know which one that was. We need to look that up. All right, so maybe WRC will tell us, because they're pretty good at telling us things here. I'll update it and make it larger. So, according to WRC, Putin's arrest warrant complicates the Z-Man's meeting. President Trump hosted the world leaders to the White House Monday to discuss efforts in the 3.5-year-old conflict. He has ruled out allowing Ukraine to join NATO. That's good. He expressed support for security guarantees. And I understand he said that there will be no American boots on the ground. And he has begun arrangements for a face-to-face between the Vladmeister and the Z-Man. Texas Democrats who ended a walkout found themselves shadowed by law enforcement to keep them from repeating the protests that stalled Republican efforts to redraw congressional districts and fulfill Trump's desire to reshape U.S. House maps. And Justice Department, well, this is 16 minutes ago. The Justice Department is investigating D.C. police over crime data stats. Oh, wow. The D.C. police manipulated crime data to make the crime rates appear lower than they really are in the city, 2 senior law enforcement officials confirmed today. The investigation is being run out of the U.S. Attorney's Office in D.C., led by Janine Pereiro. Trump spoke of the probe on social media last night. On a post first reports that the Justice Department has a formal investigation. NBC reported last month that Metropolitan Police Department Commander Michael Pullman was suspended and put on leave, and they began investigating. Yeah, last month. Didn't make mainstream media. Senior mediator spells out Gaza ceasefire proposal agreed by Hamas. Israel is yet to respond. Trump offers, quote, my assurance U.S. troops won't be sent to Ukraine. That's good news. We do not want them there. So, well, I mean, I don't. Maybe you do. I don't. Wendell says, I don't know why anyone lives in New York. And Denise loves Janine. She was great. She was very outspoken. I liked her. Texas Democratic legislators should stay in the state capitol after refusing a law enforcement escort to leave. U.S. credit rating affirmed overnight on robust tariff revenue. Switzerland happy to host the Putin for peace talks despite an arrest warrant. He might not be wanting to go there. And let's see. Trump vows to change how elections are run. However, the U.S. Constitution doesn't give him that power. We're not going to go over that article, but there is some merit to it, and it needs to be researched more before I comment. Trump cites Donbas control as he need for flexibility on territory and a potential deal. That's talking about the Ukraine. And he reiterated that they shouldn't join NATO. And most GOP governors only apparently are the ones sending National Guards. And this broke yesterday. They make a big deal about it. Says that Trump was caught on a hot mic saying, quote, I think Putin wants to make a deal for me. And he reiterated, you understand that, when he was talking to the French President Macron. I don't know exactly what was meant by that comment, and I'm not going to make a big deal out of it either way because I don't know the reference as to which they were talking about. So there you go. All right, that's all the updates from WRC. You can go there and look at them. Let's look at the National Weather Service daily briefing, and we will continue on looking at storms. Denise says, Wendell, New York is big. I live towards Montauk. And Wendell, there's also cryptids and Bigfoot up there. So you should be checking it out. All right, so the forecast map pretty much as we discussed, that extreme weather going to be here in the Appalachians from northeast Georgia through. It's actually going to be through the Carolina and through the Carolyn, up into southwest Virginia. North Dakota, you appear to be getting a break. I don't know that I'd rule that out. That is going to move a little bit more tomorrow to the north, and it's going to slowly continue affecting the northeast. So we're going to talk about that here more in a minute when we get over to the Hurricane Center. Let's look. So according to the NATOcast and the National Weather Service, there is less than 2% in the United States for a tornado today, but high winds can be anticipated from Ohio down across into Kentucky, western Tennessee, into the Midwest. And we see here on the NATOcast, they anticipate them to be higher in Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana. And then they say that there is a slight chance for hail, but it's less than 5%. Let's look at current weather warnings, and I'm sure this is lit up today. And one thing that they did talk about as this comes to the coastline of the states, we need to be watching more for water spouts. And that is going to be more of a problem than actual hurricane or tornadoes. Because apparently, and I don't understand, I don't live along the coastline, so I don't understand, but apparently the water spouts will form, come to land, and if the energy transfers, they can be as big as a tornado. And according to a lot of the meteorologists I've seen, that's an issue that we're going to have to worry about as this approaches. So Maryland, North Carolina, and Virginia has issued a tropical cyclone statement. In other words, they're starting their people to be prepared. Wisconsin, they have issued a flood warning because of rain. So has North Carolina and Illinois. Delaware has issued a coastal flood advisory. I'm sure that's going to change. New Jersey has issued a rip current statement and a high surf advisory along the Atlantic. And let's see, high surf advisory for both Delaware and New Jersey. And they've all talked about the coast rip currents. And in a tropical storm warning, well, this is going to be for the areas affected pretty much all of the Carolinian coast, but specifically the far eastern section of the Carolyn coast, the Outer Banks up to Virginia Beach, pretty much. That's talking about a tropical storm warning. And then you're going to see more about that. And in Florida and Georgia, we've already got high surfs coming in. And so they're issuing surf advisories. And of course, all the way up the coast, they're starting to issue beach hazard statements. Now, I think the beach hazard statement, KG, talking about you can only go into water up to your knee. We have heat advisories in the south, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi. And let's see, high surf advisory already in Maryland, North Carolina, and Virginia. And of course, all the warnings have been put to small craft and craft out to sea issued by the Coast Guard. In fact, we'll look at it in a few minutes. We'll see how the ships are navigating around it. Wendell, someone come on mine. I'm more famous than you. So there you go. I'll let you co-host if you want, Wendell. All right, so we're going to zoom out here and let's look at the lower 48 first and see where and what's going on. And we'll hop up to Alaska and check them out. Out west, well, it appears hot and dry. Some spotty showers, Denver from Denver to Santa Fe. That's pretty much the same as yesterday. And we have some spotty storms over in Kansas, specifically around Wichita, Salina. I can't make out into the east of Topeka, headed towards Kansas City. And we see flood warnings up in the north and to the Great Lakes. There's plenty of gale warnings around is that Lake Michigan from Milwaukee all the way around back over to Grand Rapids. And then south of that, we have a storm popping up in the middle of the heat advisory. And this storm is located, wow, it's got a little bit of electricity and energy to it. And where is this one? Carbondale, St. Louis. So it's right at the Missouri border with Kansas, extending back down to Louisiana, where it dissipates to spotty showers past Little Rock. That heat advisory, that goes pretty much from mid-Illinois, just below Springfield, all the way down to the Gulf of America. And going down to the Gulf of America, we see there's some strong storms. And that's by that little low. We talked about that last week. It's just sitting there, and it's just kind of spinning, being annoying. So it's causing some special marine warnings and some inland flooding and storms into Houston, San Antonio, Austin. Wendell says he might let me co-host one day. Well, okay. All right. I'm not that much of a big deal. And we see down in the Gulf of America, we see that there's small storms over in, what is that, Hattiesburg? And yeah, all the way back over, it's just spotty showers all the way really from Mobile, Pensacola, Panama City down to Tallahassee. And then there's a small cell in Tampa. That storm cell active out of the Gulf, though. I think it's going to come inland. And we see those cells they're talking about in northeast Georgia. They're going to pretty much ride the mountain today as they're going to the east. So we can see spotty showers going from northeast Georgia through East Tennessee and the tip of Carolyn there into southwestern Virginia. We'll see if they dissipate. And we're already starting to see all the warnings popping up from the Floridian coastline all the way up into the Chesapeake Bay at the Delmarva. And we see that it's actually extending now past New York City into Boston. So they're starting to get prepared. Now look at the path that it's projected to take. It is still heading west. I don't want anybody to misunderstand that this thing's turning to the east yet. It is still heading to the west. It hasn't turned to the north or the east yet. So currently, she is still going to the west. So how it wobbles is dependent upon how much it affects the coastline from, well, I want to say from Georgia up through the Chesapeake Bay, but specifically the North Carolina coastline and the Outer Banks, Oak Island. Those areas are going to see some significant wind, some significant rain. And we look back up to the north. It looks as though Detroit is getting a pretty good soaking all the way across into Hamilton, Canada, and back over to Rochester. And we look at New York City. We don't see any alerts besides for along the waterways where they have high surf, small craft statements, and gale warnings. And we'll start to see those storm warnings go a little bit further to the north. They've only reached to the Chesapeake Bay, Delmarva region right now. So we'll get a better look at her here in just a minute. Let's see, making sure I'm trying to stay good on time. Okay, looking at the radar in the rest of the world, had to think there for a minute. And Alice Springs, you don't have any rain right now. Some small storms in Perth. I understand from Radio X management that there was some really severe storms overnight in Perth and that they had some power outages and stuff to go with it. So hopefully they got that corrected. We see that the storms now are extending across the west side from, where are we looking at here? From the coastline down here in, it's hard to read through the rain, but on the coastline going to the east of Perth, spotty showers pretty much from the east of Albany and Perth back up to Three Springs, Geraldton. Basically that little corner of the continent, you're seeing some spotty showers. And we'll look at the in detail forecast. And along the Gold Coast here, we look at some storms popping up along the coastline on the east coast from Sydney all the way up there past Brisbane. And it looks like nothing up towards Darwin. And we'll zoom out and see if we can get a better look of how Erin looks. And Yeah, it's hard to tell on the radar, on this worldwide view of the radar. It just doesn't give the picture that I like. So we'll go to a satellite view. Let's look at the electrical activity right now in the storms in the lower 48 and see what we got. Wendell says you do need to come on and talk about your show. Well, I'll be glad to. And Denise says to Brenda that she loves them. So, okay. All right. So we see some spotty storms, as we talked about, in New Mexico from Santa Fe back down through Albuquerque, down to La Cruz, and then over here in Topeka and Wichita and Kansas. There's a pretty good strong cell there. Oklahoma City, you have a small cell there. That cell from what we were looking at from, where are we at here? From in Indiana, stretching back down. It's also going to be, this is the one we were talking about, to the east of the Mark Twain National Forest, going over into the northeast, over into Indiana and Illinois. Indiana. Yeah. Let's try Illinois. So that storm there has got some power, but it's moving to the east. It's going to affect Kentucky and Louisiana, West Tennessee, Memphis. Later on, it'll get us over here in the East Tennessee region. Good Lord. Houston, some spotty showers, but offshore, man, it'd be a horrible day to work offshore. We've said that all throughout the summer about the spotty storms out in the Gulf of America, but it looks like Corpus Christi is getting hammered right now. We go over and see, Mobile has a small cell, but Pensacola's got a pretty good one, and so does Panama City. And there's some cells stretching all the way over to Tallahassee. Down in Tampa, Clearwater, a small cell there, but most of the electrical activity is offshore. And we see a storm in Jacksonville, up into the northeast. Really nothing significant besides for some showers. And I don't see any electrical activity in the one in Alaska. And let's see if we can zoom in and get a better picture on anything going on with Erin. And we really can't get an idea of her electrical activity yet. She's just not enough into the range of this radar to be showing it. But we do see that there are some electrical storms between Bermuda and Florida, which signify that those are some of her bands. Let's look at power outages in the U.S. And by the way, you can go over to Lightning USA and look at the power, or look at the electrical activity anytime you want. And I suggest you do that, as well as have a NOAA weather radar, and of course check weather warning and beyond. All right, so Texas currently has 10,124 without power. They're the highest. Louisiana has 4,800. California, 4,700. Georgia, 4,300. Kansas, 4,200. I'll look for that to increase today as we go through the day with these summer storms. And then as we get closer with the winds coming up the coastline. Come on, she's freezing up on me. There we go. Let's look at the heat temperatures. How hot is it out there right now? It is hot. I walked Ginger early and it was hot. It's currently 98 in Memphis, over in east part of Tennessee. It's only, well, it says 90. And look at Washington, D.C., currently 72, 73 degrees. Washington, D.C., you can anticipate cloudy skies today with the high of 74. New York City, well, you're going to have a relatively cool day for the city. A high of 74, cloudy skies, low of 65. The rain will start coming in tomorrow. Boston, well, you're looking right now to in the low 70s. And, well, that's your high for today with partly cloudy skies. And we go down to Jacksonville. Let's get down here closer. And we see, well, it's cloudy skies, and it's 88. And down along the Miami coastline, it is in the 90s. And give me the weather forecast. In Miami, you can start anticipating the rain showers with a high of 90. Mobile, 95 degrees. Mobile, Alabama. It's going to be a hot day at 96, partly cloudy skies. Memphis, 100 degrees. Memphis is expected to be 100 degrees and rainy. See where the hottest part of the country is right now. Memphis so far appears to be the winner, but let's go over to Phoenix and see what we got over there. Phoenix is only 97. Okay. All right. So Memphis appears to be the hottest place in the lower 48 right now. Interesting. Let's see. Chicago, your weather. Denise says, I have a hoodie on. She's cold. In Chicago, you can anticipate a high of 78 with cloudy skies today. Seattle, well, let's go over here and look at yours and see what it's doing in Seattle. Seattle, well, cloudy skies, high of 71. So it's warmer in Seattle than it is in New York, Denise. And we get down to Los Angeles. It's 80 degrees right now. Your high is going to be 86 with with sunny skies. And we'll look and see. Once again, she's spinning right there. She's 105 mile an hour winds, category 2. Let's go to Australia and get a weather report for down there. And there's disturbance 1 and disturbance 2 already on the move. The disturbance 1, they're saying, could cross over lower Florida and cause some serious problems to Miami, to the west, back into the Gulf of America, and perhaps even to the Texas panhandle. All right, so Sydney, you are currently right at 60 degrees. That's going to be your high today with rainy conditions. Brisbane, you're looking at a high of 70, and it's going to be cloudy. Up here in Darwin, it's going to be a high of 87. That's the warm spot. And sunny skies. Port Hedland, looks as though you're going to be, well, right at 76 and sunny skies. Perth, let's hope you get through those thunders, boomers. It's going to be raining today with a high of 64. Back over in New Zealand, well, it's going to be in the lower 40s and cloudy skies. Zoom out and look at the entire, you can see the night day division on the map, and you can also see where the heat, if it would draw, is mostly all, well, the heat is starting to move towards the south of the equator. So slowly but surely, the cold is making its way back around to us. Chris says, I wish I had a job where I got to put cones on uncertainty on things I was saying or predicting would happen. Yeah, it's true. We talked about the heat, and I really can't reiterate, but pretty much the South, the Ohio Valley, down all of Florida, most of Texas, and we look back over Atlanta to the coastline, up to Southwest Virginia, Virginia Beach, all that area is going to be hot. Please stay hydrated, and then back up to Montana, and then down across the Sierra Nevadas into LA. So please stay hydrated if you're out. Let's take a look at the AI big, beautiful globe and see if we can see anything on the winds there. And Wendell says, look now, I assume you're talking about me, Wendell. Wendell's got pictures of him and Bigfoot. And Brenda says thunderstorms just started where she is. Well, sorry, Brenda. And let's see here if we can kind of zoom in a little bit on Aaron and see if we can get, it says that the winds are, it's 100 degrees with 120 kilometers. Okay. So it's 100 degrees right there. I wish I could show you, when we talked about last week, how she was crossing through the dust, when she came up through the dust, there's a graphic that shows how she brought the heat with her up into the Atlantic and pushed the dust away. Well, because the dust is cooler skies and cooler air. So as she was moving up to the north, she was bringing hot water with her, which was very impressive. And it was also causing the dust to shift back to the east. That graphic was very good. I couldn't figure out how to download it to show you guys, but it was exactly what we talked about with her moving the hot water with her. And we look at Australia. It looks like it's going to be a pretty windy day in Australia today. Most of them are going to be coming out of the east, extending towards the west, and then back down over Alice Springs to the south, where it's going to pick up in intensity. So it's going to be a breezy day in Australia. Let's go back up here and look at the lower 48. I didn't really do much besides zoom in on Aaron. And this is why it's so hot in the south. There is little to no air movement. All the air is staying right off the coastline. And once you get down past New York into central Virginia, there is little to no movement as it goes back to the south and to the west. What little bit of wind we do see moving is really just barely moving across the top of the Rocky Mountains. But it's very little. So there's very little airflow right now in the lower 48. Up in Alaska, though, you got some winds up there, but it's all off of your shores. So, all right, let's move on real quick because I don't want to run out of time before I show you some of these things. Talk about fires. We talked about those already. Most of them are still out to the west. Of course, Canada. Oh, Canada, you are burning. And I do see this new one down here. Where we at? Louisiana. Is this the Backbone? Yeah, we reported on this one the other day. So that's the Backbone fire. I think that's a prescribed burn. Let's look at the smoke. And I'm going to tell you, there's not much movement because there's not a lot of wind. It's just kind of sitting there. So some smoke is dissipating from Calgary down to the Gulf of America, back over across to offshore on the East Coast, all the way up into New York. I know my allergies have been horrendous, but this is just not doing much, but just kind of wafting in the air and sitting there. So let's get the air quality alert real quick. And we see that pretty much from St. Louis over to Kansas, down through Oklahoma City and Texas, that's where some of the bad pockets of air is. But because it's not really moving, it's kind of just hitting and sitting in areas where it is. The worst spot is to the east of San Diego in the lower 48 at the moment. And it looks like New York, you're getting a break from the bad air, and so is Chicago. Let's look at the bigger picture of the worldwide. And we just see how the air just really is sitting there in America and just barely moving. We see Erin spinning. She's made it through the dust, but yeah, this graphic, it showed she brought the heat right up through the dust and just pushed her way like a bull in a china shop to the north. Australia, your air quality looks fairly good for today. Your wildfires are creating, some smoky conditions along the coastlines. All right, and volcano report. Well, there is little activity today, and the earthquake, the strongest one, the last strong one was in Tonga today. And let's see, quakes detected. Okay, that's not the report I want. All right, so we're still at code orange for Great Sitkin, and Spur is code yellow. Kilauea is still a code orange for volcano warning. And we look at earthquakes. Let me change this to the last hour and see most of the earthquakes have been in Asia in the last hour and down in South America. And these are smaller ones. We pretty much older ones. I'm skipping through this. We did the space weather already, and they're saying for some minor, but it's not going to be anything serious. No tsunami warnings, watches, advisories, or threats. All right, so here we go. The National Hurricane Center. Here's where I wanted to go. So this is the 7-day graphic, and we see Erin. Let's just bring up some detailed information about Erin here. And let's look at some wind speed probabilities. So depending on how she approaches, this is still preliminary, they're saying that the coastline could get winds up to almost 50 miles an hour along the North Carolina coast, extending up into the Chesapeake, across Virginia, into Maryland. And so this is going to continue for the next 3 days. Let's see, let's go here. This is the arrival time of the winds. And no, that's not the one I want. Most likely, no. Full 3 days, 1 to 3 days. And okay, so here we go. This is the one I wanted. So here she is sitting currently. She's off the coast of Bahamas. I think she's still 300 and some miles away from any land. So she's out to sea. We're going to look at some ships here in a minute and see a better picture of where she's at. Tuesday, we're going to start seeing maybe some windy conditions going all the way up into Wednesday, but Wednesday is when it's going to start to get interesting in the evening for Carolina all the way up through the Chesapeake Bay. We're looking at Delaware, Maryland, the Chesapeake Bay, Delmarva. And then Thursday, maybe New Jersey. Just depends how much of a westerly track she takes. They're still going on about that. Let's see. Here's the watch cone, and we can see so far everything is just the major alerts are along the Carolinian coast. We're looking at peak surge. Yes, I understand. Peak surge conditions pretty much all along the Outer Banks down to Oak Island. And rip currents, well, rip currents are going to extend from pretty much Maine all the way down through Florida. So, and currently the only warnings and watches are up for the Carolina, Southern Virginia. And so the key message is she's expected to produce life-threatening surf and rip currents along beaches of Bahamas and much of the east coast of the U.S., Bermuda and Atlanta and Canada during the next several days. Beach goers in those areas should follow advice from lifeguards, local authorities, and beach flag warnings. Storm surge floodings and tropical storm conditions are expected in North Carolina Outer Banks beginning late Wednesday or Wednesday night. Where tropical storm and surge warnings are now in effect, the storm surge will be accompanied by large waves leading to significant beach erosion, overwash, making some roads impassable. Heavy rainfall from the outer bands of Erin will continue today from the Turks and Caicos and through Bahamas tonight. Flash and urban flood warnings are possible. Interests in the mid-Atlantic, southern New England coast, and Bermuda should also monitor the progress as strong winds are possible Thursday and Friday. So, so the code of uncertainty, off she goes. Let's see. Wendell says his boss called him a bull in a china shop. And River sent me a picture of Yowie from New South Wales. Oh, well, send me a picture, Wendell. And let's see, catch up here. Everyone in Long Island eat at Taco Bell the day before and blow it out back to Seattle. All right. So, Wendell, your rainfall forecast for the next 24 hours. Well, we see the coast of Georgia and down South Carolina where the moderate conditions are forecast. The extreme is off to sea for the next 48 hours. So, let's see. What else do I have? I wanted to bring this up. This is the Earth Live. And it's the, how do I full screen this? No, oh, I didn't know you could export it to PDF. How do I full screen it? That's what I want. I did this the other day, and I don't remember how. All right, well, that might be down there. I don't want to make it. No, right? No. All right. So we can zoom in and look at Erin here. This is the satellite view. This is the most recent satellite view. That eye wall is still not really formed very well in the satellite. In the radar image, it's formed really well. But we see she's pretty much off the coast of Florida to the east. All right, so disaster warnings. Do I have any new alerts here? No, I don't think so. All right, we'll zoom into the lower 48 here. Talk about all the flooding going on. We got flood warnings down into Florida. One new notification. South Carolina flooding, yeah. What is this? Wildfire in Weston, Florida. And then they have wind warning. Is that wind? Nope. High surf in Florida. There we go. We know about that. Look up here. Going along the coastline, this is going to be flood forecasts for East Georgia, Northeast Georgia. That's going to extend all the way up, continuing through the Carolinas. Up here, we have gale force warnings in Mass. We don't really have anything but some for New York City, some coastal flooding in Anne Arundel County, Maryland, and gale warnings in Delaware, down in Eastern Virginia, flood warning. I thought all these closes and moved to the next one. So, and here, this gives us a much better picture. I like this. So this is showing us how the winds are going to come in effect. And they're still showing this more on a northeasterly track. But if she deviates even by 50 miles, which for a 300-mile wide storm, that's not very much. I mean, the bigger picture, that's not very much. So Erin, well, that's where she's forecast to be. And they're putting her at a category 2 with about wind speeds of 109 and gusts up to 132. Now, remember, this is where she's going to be Thursday. So I'm sorry, Wednesday going into Thursday. And we see that even as she moves just a little bit, you're going to get hurricane force winds from her. And that's going to continue really down from almost Savannah up to the Chesapeake Bay and then out over Maryland into Delaware. And then if it variates even just a little bit, we could be looking at New Jersey and New York. And I want to remind everybody, if you go back and do your history, look at past tropical storms, Erin's names, and look at their history with New York City. There was a big one right around 9/11 that was off of the shore, and it suddenly, through a miracle, pushed out to sea before it affected New York City, and they had clear skies for 9/11. So do some homework on that if you like. Do some homework on storms named Erin in their past, and it might kind of scare you a little bit. Not that I'm saying we manipulate the weather. I'm not saying that in the least. All right, let's go down to the lower part of the world and check on our buddies down under. Since I talk about us so much, let's see here. Let's see. High winds in Australia. That's been reported in Victor Harbor in South Australia. And frost in Melbourne. All right. In South Australia, in Tasmania, you have some high winds. And then off of the coast, you have some high winds in South Wales. And some flooding in New South Wales, but that's a couple days old. And let's see, some high winds in wildfire up in the Northern Territory. We're going to call it the Northern Territory. Sorry, guys. And up in Northern Kentucky, Northern Territories, there's several wildfires up there, especially along the coast. So, did I have? No, I didn't. Let's see. Wendell says he's got to go charge his phone. All right, Wendell, we'll see you later. You can still turn us on the TV. So, and he says he's going to send it to me. All right, Wendell, thank you. Let's see. Let's skip ahead because we're running close on time here. And let's go over to marine traffic and zoom in and see if we can figure out where Hurricane Erin is. And it looks like there's a big hole right here. So I'm going to guess that's where she is right now. I wish I had a way, probably could for pay. Is there a layer that weather? Can I put on the weather? Yeah, got to unlock it. Can I put? Yeah, got to pay for it. All right. Well, it looks like these ships over in Bermuda, then down to the south, and then there is a big area where there's nothing. The closest one there is the Sea Guardian. I want to bet that's a Coast Guard ship being named the Sea Guardian. No, it's not the Sea Guardian. It's not a Coast Guard ship. She's a crude oil tanker. All right. Good to know. And we see a bunch of ships trying to get in to the U.S. under steam right now. Let's go to this other map. See if it shows us anything better. Come on. Refresh. Maybe. Will that do it? We got about 9 minutes here, so I want to. Yeah, it's not giving us as big of a picture. Show the weather though. Can I put the? No. Have a layer on it. No, I guess it doesn't. So, all right. Well, this one doesn't show as much as the other one does. I kind of don't like that. Then we'll stick with this one. So yeah, we can see right there the ships are avoiding her. She is over 300 miles wide, so they're staying well away from her. And let's go ahead here to the USA and see they don't have any special warnings put out yet for her. And I was looking to see if there was any weird warnings the other day, but I haven't paid any attention. Space Force Station skid strip. There is a ceiling from 0 feet up for a no-fly. That's interesting when it's right off, when there's a hurricane right off the coast there. I guess it'd be a good time to send something else up if you didn't want anybody to know about it. Patrick Air Force Base, there's from 0 feet on up. And then, of course, down a little further, there's the one for the presidential South residence. Over here, there is a lot of activity in Pensacola with no-fly zones. Wow, they've got a lot of no-fly zones set up in from Mobile all the way over to Panama City. All right, that's a little heavier than normal. But I don't see any warnings put out her. Usually, can I bring up significant media or no? I think those are only put out by the actual airlines themselves. But I don't have a layer for weather. Okay. Interesting. You'd think I'd have a weather for a layer, being that it's the FAA website, so that you could see the problems with turbulence. All right. We'll move onward. Look and see down here. I pull up the airplanes to see if there's any significant moving of them, and we don't really see a lot of significant moving because they're all staying to the west of it. So the vessels going from the from the north south are pretty much staying anywhere from 50 to 200 miles off the coast, and they're staying away from her. Look real quick and see if there's any military activity out there. No, I don't really see anyone. Well, thank you, Denise. I appreciate that. Some days I do wonder why the hell I'm doing this. I don't see any thing down here really interesting around her, and being Aaron. And I do see back over here, we looked at all those warnings that were up, no TAMs. Looks like there's a lot of training going on down in the Gulf of America. What do we got flying over Knoxville here? Well, it's a Beechcraft, so it's probably a dignitary. And close that. I was going to look at something. I don't even remember what the hell it was. That's a training flight. That's an interesting flight for a training flight. Usually they don't venture that far off land. And zoom out, see if we see anything interesting, because we've only got about 5 minutes left. And I want to remind everybody that I would really appreciate if you take a few minutes, just takes a second, hit that thumbs up button. Let me know that you're alive, that you're watching the show, that you're interested in what we talk about here. And you can send me feedback or just jump in the chat. Which point was that, Denise? I'm sorry, Chris. Sorry, I'm getting towards the end of this where I don't have a lot left to say. I'm trying to see if I see anything significant. Oh, I clicked that. That's a C-130. It's bringing stuff out. They're doing a lot of moving. You'll see moving up and down the East Coast here. You're going to see a lot of cargo planes from the government, which will be carrying FEMA supplies as needed. So, yeah, P-8. Interesting. So we have a P-8. It come out of, interestingly enough, it came out of Knoxville, and it's been skirting the coast. And if you know anything about a P-8, you know that is the Sub Hunter. So interesting that it came out of Knoxville, went around the mountains a little bit there, and then went down off the coast of Savannah, actually really down there at Florida, St. Mary, and it's kind of skirting the coastline all the way up to the Carolina, a P-8 Sub Hunter. So that's interesting that that's up there. So, and this one is nicknamed Sniper 10, but it doesn't say what it is. So that could be a jet fighter. Is there there's another P-8 that is coming down from, that one is coming out of Maine, and it's cruising the coastline all the way down almost to Jacksonville. So interesting. They're scanning our East Coast for subs pretty heavily. So there you go. All right. A multi from the Netherlands. It might be transporting people back out of DC back home from the meetings. So, let's see what else. I'm trying to see if there was any fuelers down here. There's a Strato tanker, but he's a way far. He's come out of Wichita. Usually if the P8s are up, there is some type of other activity where they have support aircraft. Well, there's definitely one you don't see every day. Yeah. And they're listing these as trader flights, interestingly enough, right here off of the Charleston Bay. There is an Air Force base down there, so it's not too crazy. Oh, there we do. We have some F5 Tigers. So they're down there doing some patrolling while that P8s, the two P8s are going up and down the East Coast pretty heavily. In fact, the one came into Knoxville to refuel. That's very odd. I'm going to make sure I got this set right. Yeah, that's Knoxville. It came into Knoxville to refuel. Well, there is a Tennessee Air National Guard here, so I guess it could refuel here. Interesting that a P8's doing that along the East Coast in a hurricane. So, all right, well, we're almost out of time here. Didn't get a chance to talk about the two police officers in Utah. Sergeant Lee Sorensen was killed in the line of duty in that shooting. And please don't make any jokes. Police officer from Utah, Eric Estrada, was killed. Those two officers were killed in Utah in that domestic. And I don't believe there's been any more. Well, I don't know if it's been reported as a line of duty death yet. All right, so we'll go ahead here with Bitdefender. Did I miss anything, guys and gals? I don't think I did. But you can always message me if you want to see something else or you want to see me. Brenda says she kept me up late. No, actually, Ginger did. She didn't keep me up late. She got me up at 6. I mean, I guess she had to go. If you got to go, you got to go. But yeah, if y'all want to send me a message, sportcat@protonmail.com. If you want to text me, 404-492-6095. Those are all in the show notes. Don't expect me to answer that. That's not a phone line that gets, it's just for recording voice messages and receiving texts. And of course, you can always come over to Facebook and join our group. There's a lot of people in there, and I encourage everyone to post things that anything you want to see, message me via one way or the other, and I'll try and get it on the show. So yeah, I hope everybody's having a great day. I hope you enjoyed the show. KG, thank you. Denise, thank you. Brenda, thank you. Chris, thank you. Wendell, I know you're not listening any longer, but thank you. I appreciate all my loyal fans. If you would all take just a second and press that thumbs up button, it means a lot to me because some days, And Brenda says, if you want to go see him, oh yeah, well, whatever. You know right where I am, Brenda. You can come find me. I'm not too hard to find on the internet. Anybody can find me. Proof of that, I already have a stalker at any rate, or had a stalker. At any rate, I'm going to get out of here. I love you guys. Thank you. Like I said, some days I feel like I'm just doing this for naught. So I appreciate all of y'all and all your support. Please hit that thumbs up button. Please tell a friend, come over, subscribe, and I will see you guys tomorrow. And remember, I have 2 shows tomorrow. Tomorrow night, I have the Para Our Normal guys. I have 2 authors, and we're going to go over some really cool stuff. So, and I got an announcement about the show too. So there's 2 announcements. I have a celebrity on my Thursday Big Brother show. So we'll have that. And then I have an announcement about my Wednesday show coming up soon. So, all right, everybody, have a great day. I will see you tomorrow. Sportcat is...